evening. This is the only part that I have had planned, is that I would come up and see a dream, a vision made to life, and I would probably just cry, and that's it. So, goal accomplished. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. Just coming is the first step, and it's just beautiful. I want you guys to look around tonight and see that there are other people here. Each one of us have had our own stories or journeys, or know people that have had stories or journeys. Somehow, we've all been affected by loss. But you're here, and I want you to look around and see that there are other people that showed up too, and that you are not alone. Tonight, we're going to share several real-life stories of our own personal walks. And maybe it's not exactly your story, but maybe you can definitely relate in some way. And so I just want to welcome each of you. Please go ahead and silence your cell phones. Let this be for you tonight, because it is. It's for each and every one of you. So my name is Alyssa Cowan, and I am the recent founder of a local nonprofit called I Am Seen. And it's called that because as you're saying it, I want you to know that you are seen, that you are not alone in your loneliness and your story. So it was February 23rd, and I was 2.5 months pregnant. And I started to bleed, and my husband was out of town for work, and I was just like, I'm fine, I'll be okay, nothing's really going on, it'll be okay. And it started getting worse and worse throughout the day, and so I was off and on the phone with nurses and doctors and calling back to my husband to let him know what the updates were. And it finally came to the point where they wanted me to come in for an ultrasound. And so I called my husband and let him know. And in a drive, it was the middle of February, so there was snowy, icy mountain passes and lots of deer. And it was a drive that should have taken 3 hours, and he was home in 1 hour and 45 minutes to take me off to the ER. It was late at night. The normal doctor's office would be closed. And so he came home, and I had been on the toilet all day long with just blood. And I wanted to stand up and show him that there was more blood than water in the toilet. And I stood up, and this tennis ball sized tissuey mass came out. And I thought, that's not good. And so we hurried and got to the ER, and it was a really busy night. They didn't have rooms available, so we were put in the hallway on a bed, and we went in to get an ultrasound done, and I looked at the screen, and it was empty. It was blank. And we had ultrasounds before to know that that is not normal. And we looked at the technician, just asking, what's going on? And she couldn't say anything because it had to be read by the certain certification person, but she kind of looked at us and gave us a little nod. I'm like, doesn't look good. So we went back to the hallway, and we were seen by a doctor, and he just said, you have had a complete miscarriage, which means there's no sign that you've even been pregnant. And I was in slow motion. I was numb, I was shocked. I didn't know what to think and what to do. And we left empty-handed. My husband brought me pajamas. Usually after having a baby, I would go and get my fuzzy pajamas on so that I could nurse. And he still brought me pajamas, and we left the hospital at midnight that night. Empty-handed and alone, we were driving home and trying to contact anybody to let them know what had happened. And it was just a spiral of isolating, not being in our norm. We weren't okay. And even when, after a few months, we went back to our normal circles of people that we normally associate with, it was awkward because it was like, do we tell them that we had a miscarriage because they knew, or do they already know because they heard from someone else? There was this awkward back and forth because they didn't want to say anything wrong to make us feel bad, so they didn't say anything. So it was just like silence on both sides and lonely. Who do you relate with at that point? Who understands what you're feeling? And I kept trying to make myself grieve because I'm like, I just lost a baby. So this is really awful, this is really hard, this is really sad. Feel it, grieve it, come on. Like I would sit in my bath for hours just like trying to cry because this is the time that I have to feel it before I need to get back and be, my normal. And it wasn't coming and I was just numb. And it wasn't until probably 3 months later that somebody told me numbness is a feeling. And that it's okay to not be okay. That it's okay to not know how to feel. And then all of a sudden, the grieving came at the most inopportune moments. When you least expect it, just this flood of tears that felt unstoppable. And through this journey, I've been learning that it's okay to sit in that for a little bit and to grieve that for a little bit. I ended up going to the Pregnancy Resource Center because I just needed somebody to talk to and somebody to cry with, and somebody there told me it's very impactful to be able to name your child. And it's hard because you didn't have something in your arms to hold, and you didn't have something to bury. And so it's like this awkward in between of hurting but not knowing how to express it. And when she said, name your baby, I thought, okay, it gives them an identity, it gives them a person, there was a person in all of this. And so not everybody knows whether it was a boy or a girl off of an ultrasound. We were just, our next ultrasound, we would have been able to tell. And so I prayed about it and was like, okay, what is it? What was it, Lord? And we just my husband and I both felt like it was a boy. And so we named our son Micah. And it's super special now because when we talk to our other children, we say Micah and they know who we're talking about. So it's been 5 years since I had my miscarriage. And just a year ago, one of my good friends also had a miscarriage, and I broke all over again. I thought, I've acknowledged it, I've sat in grief, but it was just fresh, like a raw wound opened all over, like it just happened yesterday. I called my husband, screamed, crying, just shaking, and he came home from work to try and comfort me. And in all of this, the Lord gave me a poem that I shared with my friend, and I want to share it with you tonight. It's actually a prayer, and you have a copy of it in your bag. It's called A Prayer from the One Who Never Got to Hold You. Almighty God, the one who holds life and death in your hand, my heart is aching for this little child you gave and then took away. I do not understand. The waves are heavy and deep in the ocean of sorrow and loss. This burden is too much to bear alone. How do I take up this cross? How do I talk about this? Where are all the others who have felt this pain, who will understand? Where are my sisters and brothers? Isolating and hurting, Yahweh, Lord, minister to me. When people are silent and don't know how to talk about it, meet me in my time of need. I know you are a faithful Father, and all things work for good in your hand. But why did you allow this to happen? How could this be part of your plan? Retracing our steps to tell those who knew of our little one inside. Sorry for your loss. Try again soon. At least you have other children. Who can I really confide? The wounds cut deep inside of my empty womb. Give me hope through the sorrow I will bear tomorrow that comes from the Lord's empty tomb. God, you are alive. You know me well, and you see into my heart. Even though I don't know how this story will go, show me where to start. Help me to grieve, to feel, and not run. The baby you gave me to carry has a purpose and a name. Was it a daughter or son? When we meet again someday, I will hold my baby in my arms, close and comforted, with no fear of harm. I am hurting, Yahweh. My body did all it could have done. It was beyond my control, and now my baby is in the arms of Yeshua, Jesus, God's only Son. Precious life I cherish, held deep inside me for a short time. Now we are apart. I will always carry my baby within me with the love inside my heart. And that's with love and commemoration for my precious little baby Micah.